Hello everybody, this is Ernie Delgado, co-founder of Beyond Technology Education. Thank you for spending some time with us today to talk about technology planning, and hopefully this is a topic that all of you are hopefully somewhat familiar with. I've been doing this work for over 20 years, and what I've learned is today more than ever, it's not about stuff, it should be about staff. And so the swim grid approach I'm going to share with you today has been fine-tuned over the years, but really helps educators identify what are the steps that need to be taken, how do we make sure that we get the most out of our technology expenditures and the tools that we bring into the school, and what are the major pieces of the plan that need to be put into place. What are the big rocks that need to go in first? We feel that we've identified some of those ultimate truths. So I'm going to share some of that information with you today, and hopefully this resonates with you. I will point out a couple things quickly. We've been working with so many schools over the years, and one of the things that I have found consistent, the schools that are great, the schools that have really figured this out, usually there's someone there. There's a great leader, and so I want to identify that and point that out real quick. Great schools have great leaders. And the fact that you're looking for information, that you're seeking out the best way and looking for new ideas, that puts you in that category, because leaders do go out and find the best answers and model excellence. And I think you'll find that some of these ideas today really hit home, especially if you're starting or revising a technology plan. I want to point out two areas that really make this a very relevant topic. Now, the first trend that we've noticed is the fact that technology access at home is exploding. There's technology everywhere. It's crazy. It's in your car. It's in your hand. It's in your backpack. Your television is completely different these days. Now, the fact that your students are using technology more is not the big news here. Research shows that the fastest growing group of users of technology are adults, ages 36 to 65. And let's think about that for a moment. Why is that an important idea for us as educators? Well, that age group, 36 to 65, represents a good majority of our teachers. And so what's happening is now more than ever, your teachers are accessing technology at home. They're using their cell phones, their smartphones, they're using their iPads, they're using their digital television. They're learning how to program the VCR, so to speak, with their DVRs. So it's interesting to note that for the first time in a long time, this is no longer the bottleneck. However, even with that said, I'm still finding that teachers have not learned how to take that interest or passion or basic use from home and bring it into the classroom. And that's an opportunity, and that's something that we can really expand upon. Now, another area, another trend, not quite as positive, is the fact that K-12, in the perspective of corporate America, is not preparing students for the future. And this is a concern of ours because other countries are doing this. They're doing a great job preparing kids to use technology, complex problem solving. So I see this as, not quite as positive as the first trend, but an opportunity for us as K-12 educators, as leaders, to start providing these opportunities so that students can access the tools and demonstrate the use of those tools within the classroom, and not just learn for today, but prepare them to be leaders with technology tomorrow. And there's some really great strategies we have in place to help with that. Let's talk about students for a moment. Students access technology at younger and younger ages. My 9-month-old can blow up balloons on the iPad and pop them, and it's easy. It's interesting how they just respond to these technologies. The interesting thing to note, 5 years ago, the research was saying that 8 to 18-year-olds were accessing technology 6.5 to 8.5 hours per day, some type of media, and that was a lot. What was even more interesting is that the current research shows that number is actually up. Students are accessing technology 10 hours and 45 minutes, 7 days a week. And I thought that was a lot, so I did some research. I drilled down into the numbers and tried to find out what they were talking about here. The interesting thing to note is students are doing something called multitasking. They're doing lots of different things at the same time. I saw this concept in practice when I went to go visit my cousin. He was 12, going to a private school, and I went into his bedroom to see what was going on, and there he was with his buddy, with his brother, playing Xbox, of course. He had his wireless headset on with a little microphone. He had his 27-inch plasma TV in his bedroom, I know. He had his wireless controller, and he has wireless speakers set up in his room, and his smartphone, not only was he listening to one of his podcasts wirelessly, but he was also text messaging his buddy and talking to his co-player who was in Germany. And I looked around and said, wow, this is a lot different than my bedroom when I was 12 years old. But I think you understand what I'm getting to here. Students have access to very advanced technological environments in their bedroom. They have these tools. They communicate in a completely different way today. And so the goal is, how do we take advantage of this interest, this ability to multitask, and bring it into the classroom? Because sometimes students go into the classroom and they're going backwards. It's like going in the dark ages. And they need an opportunity to express themselves with these tools they're comfortable with. Now, part of the interesting thing that I point out to educators, and I think it's just human nature just to keep track of the devices and the development of devices. You know, we have the new processor, the new iPad, the new Android OS is coming out, all these things, but you know, you can't really just keep track of all this stuff. It changes so fast, and I wonder, you know, as educators, how do you stay on top of all this? This is my industry, my career, and it's challenging for us to stay on top of all of it. There's so much information, and I'm here to tell you that this train, this freight train, bullet train, is just flying by, and at some point in time, you got to jump on. And yes, all this stuff changes, and what I do is every day I evaluate. You know, I look at 4 or 5 different, newsletters, 4 or 5 different blogs. I read a bunch of different emails that people send me. I really try to keep my finger on the pulse. And I'll tell you this, every single day I learn about something that is awesome, amazing, and will impact a teacher in a very positive way. And it's not real challenging. It's just we need to figure out a mechanism for these great ideas to trickle down into the classroom, the training methods and the adoption methods. How can these great ideas find their way into the teaching and learning process? And this is what we've developed as a system to do this, because there's no way you're going to have all this information at one time. It's constantly going to change, and part of the process is we help with that change. We're your partner, and this model will give you some tools to do that. Now, in my 20-plus years of working with schools across the United States, I have yet to come across the perfect school. It's elusive. It does not exist. And generally, there's a few different issues that I find a lot of schools have. Budgets is a big one. Enrollment's flat or down, although that's changing in some areas of the country. 2 areas that we could really make a difference, and technology needs to make a difference. One is working with your teachers, and one is working with your curriculum. Let's talk about teachers. I've already identified the fastest growing group of users. That's a great thing. That's a positive. Most of your teachers are also using technology. They have their Facebook pages. They update their Twitter. They're looking for restaurants with Yelp. You know, they use technology at home in their personal lives. I've also learned, and the research proves that, you know, up to 96% of classrooms in America has access to technology with internet access. So back in the day, the bottleneck was, well, we don't have enough computers, we don't have access. That's no longer the case. And I also know, and the research proves this, that if you train your staff, and the language used is simulations and applications, and if they use those tools and demonstrate them within their curriculum, they will produce higher achieving students. So you have to sit back and ask yourself and scratch your head, as an industry, K-12, why is it with all this stuff we know, teachers are using technology more than ever, we have access to computers with the internet, and training will produce higher achieving students, why have we not figured out how to do this? And I'll tell you, if I visit 100 different schools, I'll see 100 different models on technology use, and most of them are not good approaches to the use of technology. Now, we've kind of simplified this. And this is one of the tiny tidbits of information I'd like you to leave with, but we feel that in order for technology to truly make a difference at your school, your teachers need to possess what we've called the 3 C's: confidence, competence, and content. And I'm going to expand on this, but simply put, confidence comes from training. We need to retrain. There's no way around this part. Everything points to training your staff and giving them that level of confidence with the use of technology. The second is competence, just knowing the tool for the job and modeling or watching an expert or watching someone that knows how to do this. They have access to technology at home. Sometimes just showing them how these tools can be used in their classroom, the light bulbs go on, aha moments take place, now they get it. And then the third one is content. Now most digital teachers out there that use technology in the classroom, they have their personal learning networks and personal learning groups, and they have resources, and they go out and they search for random lesson plans, and then they have the ability to figure out how that lesson plan fits into their classroom, into their individual lesson plans. And that's a lot of work. It's very time consuming, and it's a very inexact science for most people. The content method that we recommend is a completely 180-degree opposite approach, where we start with your existing lesson plans. What are your teachers currently teaching in their classroom? What are they currently using? The lesson plans that they're comfortable with, that they've been using for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And let's start with that. And let's weave technology into what they're already comfortable with. You'll get a much higher acceptance level, much more buy-in. And that's what it's all about right now, getting teachers to be comfortable with these methods, because for most of them, this is a foreign thing. Technology is not second nature to them. It's new for many of them. Now, this is a slide I like to show educational leaders, and it's not. This isn't 100% accurate. This is just it demonstrates my point. And if you look at your younger teachers, the term is called millennials. They're younger. They drive a Mini. They have their iPads. They're fashionable, and technology use is their #1 unique identifier. And you know who those teachers are on your staff. And then if you look at the next group of teachers, Generation X, they have a little more experience, but they also feel that technology is their #1 unique identifier. Very interesting, isn't it? But half as much as millennials. And then if you look at the baby boomers, your veteran teachers, technology is not on their list at all, but work ethic is #1. So if you look at these 3 categories, the reason I show this is for you to understand that as a leader, as you're trying to bring technology onto your campus, your teachers are looking at this from 3 completely different perspectives. And that's important to understand, because as you develop your technology plan, you want to make sure that all these different levels of teachers are represented, that they're all comfortable, that you're not slowing anybody down or trying to push someone too hard, but you're meeting their needs from where they're at. So there's not a one-size-fits-all is what I'm saying. You need to address them differently. Now, I also bring this up because a lot of schools, very well-intentioned, they want to develop a technology plan. So they start by creating a technology committee. And usually they ask teachers who wants to be on the committee. And who's going to want to be on the committee? Obviously, your hotshots, your rock stars. They know technology. They can't wait for more devices. So they jump on that committee passionately. And that's great. That's what you want. And they help you develop this technology plan. And guess what they do? They develop a rock star caliber technology plan that alienates all the rest of the teachers. So you have to keep in mind to have a balanced approach. The teacher that maybe isn't real comfortable, maybe that's the person you need to be on that committee as well, to balance out the perspectives. This is an important factor in planning to understand, because I see this all the time. Schools just kind of overplan, and it's not practical. So you want to make sure to mitigate that problem. Another big category that we like to talk about is curriculum. And I'll tell you right now, the goal of the swim grid model, the goal of Beyond Technology Education, is not to replace your curriculum, to throw it out and start fresh. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is how can we look at our methods? How do we do things today, and how can we modify them, and not overnight, but over a period of time, make things a little more up to date, where we're going beyond just covering the skills that we test in standardized testing. And let's touch on that for a moment. In K-12, we test. That's what we do. That's what our industry is all about for the most part. And in some situations, I see that's really the focus for a lot of the teaching and learning taking place. Now, what's unfortunate, and hopefully I'm not the first person to address this, but just teaching the standards is no longer enough. If we're really going to be good stewards, if we're really going to prepare these students for the future, we need to go way beyond the standards. You know, a lot of the skills that we cover, and actually I had a teacher that was very upset at me for saying this, but a lot of the skills that we test are skills that can be outsourced and are being outsourced. So the question you should ask yourself, are we trying to prepare, you know, really high caliber, educated, smart, well-spoken burger flippers? Or are we preparing our students to be competitive and to be able to compete for those high-level jobs? You know, those 21st century skills we hear so much about. You know, we did this analysis, and we looked at this list of the fastest growing occupations. This was from 2009. And if you look at that list and you ask yourself, what does it take to get these jobs? What kind of skill sets and expertise do you need to possess to do this? And there's a handful of things that come up. Complex problem solving. If there's one thing we could do to prepare kids for the future, give them the ability to figure it out. Complex problem solving is required in these. Use of systems and applications, computer systems and applications, another one. Collaboration, creativity, all these skill sets. Now what we did is we went back, this was 2009, we went back to 1999, and we went back to 1989. And we looked at the 10-year increments and what were the fastest growing occupations from those three different junctures in time. And we looked at the need for complex problem solving, collaboration, use of computers and simulations and applications, collaboration, all those higher order thinking skills, all those skill sets, those 21st century learning skills, and we looked at the data points. Every 10-year increment kept going up and up. So being the smart people we are, if we're going to forecast into the future, none of us knows the future, but if we were to forecast 2019, which is getting closer and closer, do we think those data points are going to continue to grow up, or are they going to go down? And I think you know the answer. They're going to continue to go up. So we need to figure out what are these skill sets and how can we make this part of what we do as a school so that we are preparing students not just to be better learners today, but better earners tomorrow, be more competitive for those jobs. We want them to have the high caliber jobs. You know, let's keep them here, those jobs, and let's prepare our students to do that. And the curriculum is the perfect place to start to demonstrate the use of these abilities. It can happen. And so we're really making them more well-rounded students. Now, this was a very interesting report. And if you look at this, this was done by IBM. And if you remember IBM from the 80s, they owned technology. They invented the PC. And if you remember their image, IBM was, they were mostly males, navy suits, red tie, black wingtips, and they all looked alike. Very, standard corporate image. Now, this is a report done by IBM, asked CEOs around the globe, what are the skill sets that students should have today to be competitive? And it's interesting to see what IBM is saying because it's different from what they used to say. If you look at this purple box on the left, take risks that disrupt legacy business models. Huh? That's IBM saying that? Leapfrog beyond tried and true management styles. What they are saying is today students should think different, be different, think outside of the box. Now, those of you that are principals, that's the kid that's in your office all the time, right? Thinking outside of the box, not really conforming to the traditional classroom. You know, that is now a skill set. And it's interesting, if you look at some of the leaders out there today, they demonstrate some of these leadership skills. If you look at the middle box, the orange box, reinventing customer relationships. You know, it's interesting today. Most companies, their goal is not to purchase time on the Super Bowl to get the word out to the masses. No, what do they want to do? They want you to like their Facebook page. They want you to join their Twitter feed. They want you to subscribe to their newsletter, be part of their tribe. They come straight to you into your inbox, into your handset, into your social networks. The socialization of our world is is multiplying like never before. And there's a strong component that can help educators, teachers tap into this to communicate ideas. And it's fascinating what I'm seeing happening out there when teachers understand the power and students embrace this, which they already are, and this comes into the learning environment. Very, very interesting, and students are comfortable with this. The last box, the green box, I really read through this report, and one of the most interesting facts that jumped out, or the interesting points they made, it was the fact that we live in a very complex society that is only going to get more complex. And I thought about that. How do we teach complexity management? How do you prepare students for that? Are we doing it? These are the kind of things we need to think about. As educators, as stewards, how do we prepare students for this mystery future? And sometimes it means partnering with someone who kind of has an idea. And I'll tell you this, in the 20 plus years that we've been doing this, we've seen fads come and go. We've seen tried and true methods that have proven themselves and proven the test of time. And so we're in a unique position to share that information with others. Read this real quick from Steve Jobs. I'll give you a second here. What really jumps out when I read this, it was one of my aha moments. Simple can be harder than complex. And technology planning can be a very complicated process. And what I see happening more often than not, well-intentioned schools decide they're going to put together a committee, and they usually break that into subcommittees. One person's in charge of hardware, another person's in charge of connectivity or internet access, another one's in charge of software. And at the end of the day, they all come together. They talk about their different ideas, and they kind of don't really all gel together because they're developed by different teams. And they have this big, huge, complex document that usually is put on a shelf and never really looked at again. And this happens all the time. Now, over 20 years, we've gone through so many iterations of this planning idea that we figured out the ultimate truths. If you read Stephen Covey, the big rocks that you put in the jar first to make sure they get covered. And we developed a plan to help you do that. And really, the goal is to develop a systematic technology integration solution so all teachers at all grade levels, all subjects, all students are introduced to technology. It starts at their level, then builds. And ideas trickle down because there's always going to be new great ideas to use the technology. And the focus shouldn't be completely on stuff, but on your staff and plan it so that the stuff comes in at the right time. Now, we didn't just develop this out of the blue. We started, 20 plus years ago by studying existing technology plans. And we looked at small startup schools, we looked at established schools, we looked at school districts. My partner Rick Harrell used to work with ministries of education abroad, doing this for countries. So we looked at different levels, and what we found is that most technologies were really bad. In fact, they focused on stuff, and there was little improvement, that you could really point to that the technology provided, and that was very, very disconcerting. However, there were a small percentage of schools that were doing amazing things, and technology was the reason. Student achievement up, teacher productivity up, absenteeism rates down. The school was a better place, and the technology had a lot to do with that. So what did we do? We studied that. We studied best practices. What were they doing different? How did they approach this problem? And so version 1 of the swim grid looks something like this. Here's what they were doing. First of all, they were assessing, training, and supporting their classroom teachers. Duh! This was huge. Now, I'm not saying, and let me be clear here, I am not saying that you need to put all the responsibility and all the burden on the shoulders of your teachers. That is not what I'm saying at all. And I get a lot of teachers that they're kind of stressed out when they hear about this, and I tell them, no. You need to be part of the conversation. You interact with the students every day. You interact with the curriculum every day. Obviously, you should be part of developing this solution and helping and absorbing ideas over time. And again, it's not a one-day in-service. That's not your answer, but a 3 to 4 year technology plan. We have found that is the perfect timeline to get things done. and teachers appreciate that. I'll expand on that in a moment. The second thing they were doing is they were training your students. Now, it's easy to assume that your students know it all because they act like they do, right? But the fact of the matter is students don't know it all. Rarely do they have a full understanding of all the different technology areas. They could update their Facebook status like nobody's business. Have you ever seen them, their thumbs, when they're text messaging each other? It's amazing what they can do with their thumbs. If that was a skill, thumb movement, these kids would be off the charts. But the fact of the matter is, do they understand how to research correctly and to cite and reference correctly? Do they know how to use spreadsheets and databases correctly and integrate all these tools together? Do they know how to do presentations accurately and demonstrate ideas correctly? You know, all these different tools. And so students do need basic skills. And I know there's a difference of opinion. Some people think they don't, but we have found that the good schools do. They did do something special with students. And the third thing we identified is that they were integrating technology into their lesson plans. They weren't going out and finding random projects off the internet. They weren't playing games. Your kids do not need your help to learn how to play games. And I'll say that again because it's true. They were starting from their existing lesson plans and finding ways to improve them where the technology met the needs of their curriculum. And that made the difference, and that was what schools were doing great. And if you look at the standards out there, you know, their ISTE has developed a set of standards, and we do meet most of those. We do apply what ISTE talks about for students and teachers, and there's some things that we believe, and I've talked about the 3 C's. This is something that we talk about with a lot of people, trying to simplify this. Again, you can have a complex technology plan, or you can talk with us, and we'll break it down, and we'll give you the simple, honest truth. You need to have the 3 C's: confidence training, competence modeling, content developing lessons based on your current lesson plans. That makes all the difference in the world. And when you do that, when you're redeveloping your lesson plans and you have a partner to help you, which is generally the best way to do that, then you could provide those complex problem-solving opportunities, those collaboration opportunities, all those things that you could weave into the lesson plans. So not only are the students learning better today because they're creating, they're making something, they're involved, that teachable moment that we all strive for, but you're demonstrating how to use these tools that will give them a leg up and a better opportunity for the future. And that's a big part of this whole thing, is demonstrating the tools within the curriculum today that they could then take with them forever. It's a twofold approach. It makes that kind of sense. And if you do this right, you know, we call it an organic approach. The curriculum should really drive your technology. And I know it's a simple sentence, but I cannot tell you how many schools I've been to that, you know, they just went full out and equipped. They did all the fundraisings, and maybe they had a big donor, and they equipped their school with these amazing technology environments, and all they're doing is playing games, or they're doing keyboarding, or they're not really getting full use out of the technology because they didn't kind of follow some steps. They put the cart in front of the horse. The technology should be driven by your curriculum. Now, this plan I keep talking about should be simple, and a simple plan can easily be communicated to your staff and to your families, and a simple plan is a plan that you will implement. And this is where we help you. We'll actually develop this simple plan for you. Now, this is an analogy I use with many educators, and follow me for a second. I'm a car nut, and I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with this latest, greatest electric car. It's called the Tesla Model S, full 100% electric. It's all electric, and it gets like a 350-mile range or something like that. It's the Automobile Magazine Auto of the Year, and it's the Motor Trend Car of the Year. It's truly a phenomenal technology. And I'll compare this in this analogy, if you follow me for a second, because this is how I talk to administrators and their technology visions. But imagine that tomorrow morning you woke up and you had a Tesla Model S in your garage. It was yours. You owned it. And if you live in a snowy environment, it has snow tires on it, and it's all-wheel drive. So it's great. It's a great car to get you to school. And then imagine that you open up your garage and there's no road. In fact, you don't know how to drive, and there's no electricity in the car. You can't even listen to the radio. It's just a hunk of metal sitting there. It's worthless. And I use this analogy And I touched on it a moment ago because this is how I see a lot of schools approach this idea of technology integration is they focus on stuff and they go out and they buy, a device for every student. Every kid has a laptop or an iPad, and every teacher has all these tools in their classroom. And they have a movie studio. And I have one school, they're launching rockets. It's a true story. And if you really drill down into their program, all they're doing is keyboarding. Or they're downloading worksheets off the internet and the kids are kind of filling them out. Or they're playing games. Oh my goodness, I see this more often than not because they put the cart in front of the horse. They didn't plan right. And by the time they get it all figured out, the equipment's obsolete. I see this every day, and so I'm here to tell you don't do that. In fact, talk with us. And what we do is we'll build the road. We'll teach you how to drive. We'll put electricity in the car, and together we'll create a map to get you where you want to go and use our experience and our expertise to do that. The swim grid basically is a way to organize your thoughts, and it's something that we developed over time. It's simple, it's effective, it's a 5-part technology planning method. We're all busy, and we look at the 5 major categories: your teachers, your students, your curriculum, that was version 1.0. The latest version of SwimGrid also includes infrastructure and improvements and devices. And when should they come into your school? When should you have a computer lab? When should you have mobile labs? When is it right? When's the right time to put an iPad or laptop in the hands of every teacher? And then when is it the right time to put those same devices in the hands of every student? Now, these ideas, 2-3 years ago were really far-fetched. Today, they're a reality. Schools are doing this, and many of them are doing it wrong, but you should be planning for this environment because in 3 to 5 years, digital textbooks will be a reality. They're out there. They're not ready for prime time just yet, but that's going to be a game changer for education. And there's going to be a lot of other amazing things that are being developed that will be game changers. Common Core is creating a whole dynamic environment for entrepreneurs to develop great ideas that will make education better. Now is the time to prepare for that because in 3 to 5 years, there's going to be so many amazing opportunities for your school that the technology will be cheaper and easier by then, but you need to start now to prepare for that. You don't want to be missing the boat. And the 5th area is project management. Assessments, quality control, customer service, making sure all of this gels together, that nothing falls through the cracks. And so we actually sit down with you and we look at your school and we try to put together this 4-year plan. And it addresses those 5 major categories. First of all, the assessments and the training for your teachers. Now, one of the things I tell schools right now is there's this big trend in iPads. It's huge. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Actually, I have seen things like it in the past. And we love iPads. I use an iPad all the time. But we try to tell schools it shouldn't be your sole focus. And we really try to get them to understand, do not abandon computing. And I know the devices are coming together, and that's a great thing. But right now, tablets, iPads, and computers are 2 completely different things. And there's some great things that could be done in each, but we recommend you do a dual approach. Make sure your students are still learning computing skills. Now, in 3 to 5 years, this may be a non-issue, but today it is an issue. And you want to make sure that you're covering both ends of the coin, or both sides of the coin, and you want to make sure your teachers understand both. Now, when it comes to your students, there's still this difference between basic skills and complete integration, and there should be time for both. You should be teaching basic skills to your students, and you should be integrating your curriculum. And this can happen grade level, subject area. It should come from both areas. And then you have to understand the infrastructure improvements. And over time, making sure that you have a bulletproof wireless network at your school. And this means that you need to start talking about IT support. Some schools have a parent volunteer, or they have a company that they have, that comes from time to time when they have emergencies. IT and infrastructure is now going to be a major part moving forward to have in place to support the devices, to support the labs, to support the classroom tools, to support the mobile labs, to support the individual devices of your teachers and students. All these pieces need to be planned for. And I'm not saying all this should happen at one time, but as we manage this process for you and we develop all these things, we're preparing you for the future because there are some amazing tools that are available for teachers. And I touched on this in the beginning. How do these great ideas trickle down into the classroom? Do we have a method, a system, a systematic way for these ideas to trickle down and to make sure your teachers are comfortable with these tools and for these tools to really fit into the lesson plans? And again, this happens over time. A one-day in-service is not going to solve your problems here. You know, over time, these tools can fit into your classrooms. And I talked to some of my integration team. You know, I have 22 educators that work for me. All of them, except one, have a teaching credential. Half of them have master's degrees in education. And they've worked with teachers all over the country and helped them identify, you know, what are the tools that you would like to use within your lesson plans. And this is just a subset of some of the tools we've already worked with and help schools figure out how to bring it in their classrooms. And again, not just focusing on the tool, but the methods, the plan to make sure all these things trickle down into the classroom. So let's talk about some relevant facts, and we're going to wrap up here in about 10 minutes. Professional development, it's critical. We've developed a course and we partner with Point Loma University out of San Diego where your teachers get the fundamentals of computing, how to use computers. It's designed and implemented for them so they understand how to use these tools in the classroom. It's instructor-led training. We actually send a trainer to your school. We preface this with an assessment so we could group your teachers by ability level, and it gets into all the fundamentals and then takes your advanced teachers to the next level. There's graduate credit available. Our trainers, they bring candy. They understand adult learning theory. It's a wonderful experience to give your teachers that foundation. And if any of you have ever built anything, if you don't have a strong foundation, it's very shaky at the top. A very important part. I should touch on one other thing. We just developed another training called Beyond iPads and Tablets for Teachers, and it's a 15-hour training to teach your teachers the fundamentals of iPads and or tablets in the classroom. So we have another version of this, and most schools we work with today are actually using both, training teachers in technology, computers, and training them in tablets and iPads, a two-pronged effort. We have a model for training your students in basic skills. We have a curriculum. It assumes you do have a technology specialist, a computer teacher, a technology coordinator. Real important to teach your students the fundamentals. Again, they don't know it all. You need to make sure that you train them. This assumes you have either a computer lab, a mobile computer lab, or access to devices in the classroom. It works in any environments. There's no games here, folks. Your students don't need your help to learn games. It's project-based learning, built around themes like goals, etiquette, manners, responsibility, choices. But if you really drill down, this curriculum is designed to teach technology. Unit 1, again, this is a scenario that assumes a 36-week school year and a 9-week quarter, and there's 4 quarters here. So quarter 1, word processing and keyboarding is taught, K through 8. I'll touch on high school in a moment. Unit 2, spreadsheets and databases. Unit 3, multimedia and keyboarding. Unit 4, desktop publishing. All 4 units cover internet, operating systems, basic computer skills, and graphics. So in one school year, from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade in this particular model, students are accessing all 9 major technology areas for 5 weeks per quarter. So basically, your students come to a weekly technology experience, or they get a weekly technology class, computer class, either in their classroom or in a lab or at the mobile lab, however you're set up. During that 5 weeks is when we send one of our integration specialists to your school, either face-to-face to meet with all of your teachers, or we meet with them online using virtual tools like GoToMeeting that we're using here, or Skype, or Google Hangouts. There's so many ways to do this now, but it's an opportunity for my staff, my 22 educators, to interface with your teachers and to talk to them about what are you doing in your classroom weeks 6, 7, and 8. So we'll take that classroom lesson plan from your classroom teachers, and kindergarten might be something like family, 3rd grade might be volcanoes, 4th, 5th grade might be state history, 8th grade might be European explorers. Whatever that lesson plan is your teachers are currently teaching in their classroom, we're going to sit down with them for about 35 to 45 minutes and just pick their brain about that lesson plan. What are the standards that you're trying to meet? What are the goals and objectives of that lesson plan? What are the strategies that have been successful, and what are you trying to accomplish with this lesson? And then we share some ideas on how we can make that an integrated lesson plan. And once we come to agreement, my staff then goes back to their office, spends 4 to 10 hours for every grade level developing a custom project. So week 6, when the students get their computer experience or computer lab time, whatever you're doing, no longer are they using or introduced to Beyond Technology lesson plans. It's a classroom lesson plan, and it's your school's curriculum integrated with technology. And the computer teacher, the technology coordinator, your expert is delivering that lesson, and your classroom teachers are learning, are watching, are modeling best practices. Week 9 is an assessment. And we do that in this particular model, K through 8, that's 9 custom integration projects, and each of them are 3 weeks long. 9th week is an assessment. Unit 2, we do it all over again. 5 weeks of Beyond Technology basic skills for K through 8 based on the scope and sequence. In this case, it's spreadsheets and databases and internet. We meet with your teachers a second time. Again, usually using a meeting tool like this, and ask them, and usually the second time around, your teachers have a much better idea what's expected of them. What are you teaching this unit, this quarter, week 6, 7, and 8? We'll get 9 more lesson plan ideas from your teachers. We'll go back to our office, spend 4 to 10 hours, develop 9 more projects for 3 weeks. We do that again in Unit 3, again Unit 4. So if you follow me in this model, 3, 6, 9, 12 weeks of the 36-week school year, the students are accessing classroom curriculum, classroom lesson plans, using the technology. A specialist is actually delivering that to the students, and your teachers are watching, they're learning, they're modeling, they're gathering ideas, aha moments are taking place, excuse me, light bulbs are going on. They're getting this. Now imagine we do this for 3 or 4 years. Well, year 1, 3, 6, 9, 12 weeks. Year 2, 12 weeks. Year 3, 12 weeks. In 3 years, we've developed 36 weeks of custom content for every one of your grade levels. So let's imagine for a moment. We're talking about the year 2013. So 2016, the 2016-2017 school year. That sounds so crazy to say that. Your teachers all would have, first of all, taken a technology assessment. They would have gone through the 30-hour professional development course that we developed and the 15-hour iPad training course. They understand both technologies. They would have met with an instructional designer and gave them 4, 8, 12 different curriculum ideas, lesson plan ideas that we then integrated for them. We did the heavy lifting, and they watched us deliver those. So they modeled it, and they get it now. And so they came to a weekly computer class for 3 years. The confidence, the competence, the content, check, check, check. The how, why, where, when, how to use technology has been delivered to them on a silver platter. And this, again, the bottleneck in most schools is teachers. And I mentioned, they're looking at this from 3 different perspectives. We've now provided all the resources for them to be comfortable using technology. You can't really get any more in-depth. Over time, your students will get really complex. They'll understand technology at a much higher level. We have some advanced curriculums we plug in. This is one called Snapshot of the World. It's a geography lesson. The students have to answer a bunch of questions about countries they choose, and then they create a multimedia travel magazine using Photoshop elements, a wonderful curriculum. For high school, we offer a curriculum called CEO Challenge, an amazing curriculum where students identify a business they want to start, and they do all the work to start up a company. And then they design a logo, they write a letter to the bank for credit, they have a business card, they do a business plan. Learn how to start up a company. When the kids are focusing on something they're really passionate about, they do the research, and it's amazing the quality of business plans we get out of this. We actually had a school where one of their students had their business plan funded by a parent, because at the end of the unit we ask you, invite the mayor, invite the Chamber of Commerce, get your school board, make it a big deal, and have your top 10 or so business plans presented. It's a wonderful opportunity for students to showcase their work. Great marketing tool for you guys. Speaking of marketing, Unit 2 is called CEO Marketing. It's mostly a digital video editing curriculum using Movie Maker or iMovie, and students learn how to create commercials about their company, storyboarding, capturing video, editing video, how to do billboards, magazine ads, on-site or online marketing tools. But really, the meat of this whole approach the bulk of what we're really providing for you, we call it the last mile in education. And I mentioned this earlier. Every school has technology. Every school has curriculum. How are they working together? And it's across the board. And so really we're doing that heavy lifting for your teachers. We're bringing it to them on a silver platter, making this convenient and easy, and spending a lot of time. And if you look at, if you were to ask your teachers to do this, because I've come across schools that they have teachers that can do this. Most teachers cannot do this. But let's look at both sides of the coin for a moment. If we're talking about 10 hours per project and we're doing 4 projects per year, who has 40 extra hours per grade level? If that's a K-8 school, that's 9 grade levels. That's almost 400 plus hours that you're asking your teachers to find time. So it's not practical to assume that they have the time for one. We do this. My integration team has the ability to quickly scope out a lesson, talk with your teachers, get the ideas they need, go back, develop a clean, fresh approach to the lesson, bringing in the tools that your teachers are comfortable with and the access that you have available at your school. Do you have digital whiteboards? Do you have document cameras? Do you have United Streaming or Discovery Streaming? What tools do you have there? And then we'll make sure those tools are all embraced and brought into the lesson plan. So the how, why, where, when, it's all laid out for your teachers. And what I have found is over time, these integrated lesson plans that we develop, which are formatted and look beautiful, over time become templates. If we did one for mountain ranges, your teachers learn how to change it and make it for oceans. If we did one for European explorers, well, they've learned how to edit it and make it for presidents of the United States. So there's so many ways to run with this and keep these lessons fresh. Now, I mentioned that there should be an expert or a specialist, a computer teacher, a technology coordinator. Someone at your school has to be the point person for this to work. And what we do is we will train and support that person. You identify who that person is. If you don't have someone on staff, we'll help you hire someone. We'll help you put together the language to hire the right person. It should be a teacher. I'll emphasize that, a teacher, someone who understands teaching, who understands classroom management, who is computer friendly. You send them to our 3-day training in San Clemente, California every August, and we will mold them into a top caliber, top-notch computer teacher. We'll give them all the tools to be successful. We will manage them over the 3 or 4 year timeline. And they come to training every year. They come to retraining online virtually every quarter, and we feed them with ideas and support. So you don't have to worry about that. No longer does your computer teacher have to figure out lesson plans. We'll give them the lesson plans, and we will manage them. I've had teachers walk away from this training saying, this is the best training I have ever received. I am so prepared. I can't wait to get back to school and start this program. We make sure your computer teacher has that level of confidence. In addition to making sure your computer teacher's on point, what's the future hold for you? How your classroom is going to change? How are your learning strategies going to change? How is your device acquisition? The swim grid gives us opportunities, little boxes that we fill ideas in. And again, over time, it's going to change. I don't know what's going to be available to 3 or 4 years for your teachers, but it's going to be amazing, and you're going to be in a position to take advantage of it. So once these things pop up, and they're on your radar, we'll help you figure out how to plug them into the plan. Again, we're your partner. We don't just sell this stuff and walk away. Let's see, where have I been this month? I was in Lubbock, Texas a few weeks ago working with the school. I'm headed to another town in Texas outside of Dallas this week for a conference. I'll be in Washington State in a few weeks, in Annapolis, Maryland in a few weeks. We support our schools. We don't just give you these tools and walk away. We're your partner. We're here to help. We're here to be part of the future. And, and where are you headed? And how can we make you become a school of the future? This model will put you on track to be a school of the future, and people will respond. And hopefully you see the marketing aspects available here. Educators and educational leaders need to think about how do we change the perception of our school to the community? How can we improve that? How can we become a technology school to attract more students? And once we get them, how can we make sure that they leave our school prepared to be leaders, to give them not just the standards, but beyond that? Bonus points for anyone who can recognize that picture on the right, my version of the school of the future. That was from Star Trek. Any Trekkies out there? Spock was in there, and he became he just learned by just watching this stuff. And obviously that's off the charts, but the future is now. It's time to jump on this bullet train. I want to thank Paragon Micro. They've been a wonderful partner. And, you get probably tons of phone calls from hardware vendors out there. Paragon gets it. They understand that it's not just about stuff, but how you apply the stuff and prepare your staff and how that can impact your students and your curriculum. And they embrace the SwimGrid approach. They're partners of ours. They believe in what we do, and they brought you to us. So I thank you very much. Expect a call from them, from your rep, so that we could find out, how can we take this process and take it to the next step? How can I develop a SwimGrid for your school? What does it look like financially? Is it $5 a student? Is it $50 a student? It's somewhere in that range. So let's figure it out. Do you need devices now, or do we want to put a plan together to get them in the future? So whatever it is, I do appreciate your time. Thank you for attending. I am going to make this available via video recording, so expect an email with the link to that. You can share it with your staff. You can share it with your school board. You can share it with your fellow administrators. Heck, forward it on to all your friends that are principals. We're trying to evangelize here and to spread the word of SwimGrid, because it is a model, and there is a way that we can make a difference in technology integration, and this is a great place to start. And we have hundreds of happy clients, schools like yours, that have made this their technology integration model. So I appreciate your time. You will hear from your Paragon Micro rep, and we'll get to the next step here. Thank you, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day.